Alright, so this section is going to talk about section 5.3. This is the first video from section 5.3 talking about b to the 0th power and b to the negative nth power. We talked again, just a fresh reminder, I guess, about what b to the nth power is. We're going to talk about b to the nth power is b times b times b times b, and all those put together are multiplied n times. We've got to remember what the base is and what the n is. N is going to be, again, the number of times that we multiply this base times itself. So keep in mind what n works on, just the base, and base is multiplied by itself n times. So there's just a good review, I guess, of what b to the nth power is. So we're going to talk about, in this situation especially, we're going to talk about integers and kind of what integers are. So I'm going to do, just kind of bring up a new page. We're going to talk about integers. So integers. So what are integers? Integers are the counting numbers, plus 0 plus negative numbers. So here's our integers: -3, -2, -1, 0. 1, 2, 3, and those go on forever and ever to infinity and beyond, just like Buzz Lightyear. All right. So far we've talked about 1, 2, and 3, and those numbers and beyond for our n. But we also have to talk about, for integer exponents, we have to talk about 0, and we've got to talk about 0 as an exponent, and we've got to talk about also -3, -2, and -1, etc. All those negative numbers as well. So let's talk first, I guess, about b to the 0th power, because we can talk about that and just kind of give a definition real quickly. If we take a look at something like this, x to the 4th divided by x squared, we can talk about x to the 4th divided by x squared is x to the 4 minus 2 power is x to the 2 power. And we talk about x to the 4 divided by x to the 3 is x to the 4 minus 3 power equals x to the 1st power. And the last one is, what about this one here? X to the 4th divided by x to the 4th is, well, x to the 4 minus 4 is x to the 0th power. But what is x to the 4th divided by x to the 4th? X to the 4th is just a number. X to the 4th is just a number. We've got the same number essentially in the numerator and the denominator. So if we divide that same number, or any number divided by itself, what do we get? We get just 1. So x to the 0th power, we could say, is just 1. And that's in fact what our definition is. Here is b to the 0th power. Again, we're going to convert this x to the 4th in general terms to a rule in terms of b to the 0th power, just like our b to the nth power. So b to the 0th power is defined as 1, only because we kind of followed that same rule here, the same pattern, to get to b to the 0th power equals 1. And again, b is a non-zero real number. So keep that in mind. B cannot be equal to 0. If b is equal to 0, this rule, this definition just doesn't apply. So, and really, essentially, isn't this just a special application of the previous rule that, in fact, we just followed? X to the 4th minus 4 is x to the 0th power, so yes, in fact, that is just simply a new definition, or sorry, an application of that previous rule. So let's take a look at just some examples here. We can, again, go through some examples, and you can, I'll go through the first one, I suppose, and you can pause the video and then find out if you can solve the rules as well. Keep in mind that if we've got b to the nth power, what does that n work on? Just the b. So figure out what the n exponent is and what the b base is, and we can kind of go from there. So, for example, 4 to the 0th power. 0 is working on the 4, so we've got 4 to the 0th power, just like b to the 0th power is defined as 1. b to the 0th power is defined as 1. So we go to 4 to the 0th power. 4 is our base, 0's power. That gives us just a definition of 1. Now pause the video, go through some of these. Some of them are going to be easier than others to go through, but keep in mind, what's our exponent, what's our base, and the exponent is working on the base. Anything in front of the base is going to be not taken to the 0th power, if you get my drift. Pause the video now. work on some of these and we can go from there. All right, now that you've paused the video, you've got some idea about what's going on. Again, here's our 0th power working on our base of, in parentheses, -4. -4 is our base, taken to the 0th power. Anything that's non-zero taken to the 0th power gives us just 1. Now, how about this one? It's a little bit different because here's a -4 in parentheses taken to the 0th power. Here's a negative outside the power, or outside the base, taken to the 0th power. So again, what's our base? Our base should be just -4. So this should be negative of 4 to the 0th power, and that should be -1. There's our answer, -1. That negative stays outside because it's not part of the base. How about z to the 0th power? 0 is our exponent working on z, so z, any non-zero number, we have to assume that z is not 0, but any z to the 0th power is 1. Next one is -4 times z to the 0th power. We have to assume that this is multiplication here, it's multiplied. So now we take a look at -4. We can kind of rewrite this as -4 times z to the 0th power, and there's a 0. Remember that 0 works only on the base. The base for the exponent is z, so z to the 0th power, 0 is our exponent, z is the base. Now we can kind of rewrite things as -4 times z to the 0th power is 1, as long as z is not equal to 0. And then -4 times 1 is -4. There's our answer. How about this one? What is our base here? Our base is whatever's inside these parentheses. So 4 times z, as long as z is not equal to 0, we can take it to the 0th power and apply our rule. Here's our base. 0 is our exponent, working on the base. Anything to the 0th power equals just 1, as long as z is not equal to 0. How did you do? Any questions? Bring them to class. We'll talk about them in just a second.